Hey guys, Sock here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about what is, in my opinion, the best way to improve your gameplay in Season 6, and that's the fabled hot drop. For the uninitiated, hot dropping is when you drop straight out of the dropship onto the map, or onto a zone that you know is going to be contested, like Fragment on World's Edge for example. The idea is to get into a fight right away and kickstart your game while avoiding the slow loot and rotate process of a safer drop. A lot of people don't like this kind of start, whether they find it to be too random and hectic or too much of a coin flip every time, or they just don't like the added stress, and that's fine. I want to make it clear that this is not a video telling you that hot dropping is the only way to play Apex Legends, or that it's the right thing to do every time. But I do honestly believe that if you're serious about improving your play in Apex Legends, hot dropping is by far the best thing you can do to facilitate that. I had started working on this video in Season 5, and it was true then, but now more than ever with the standard Evo armor start in Season 6, hot dropping is the most valuable tool in your Apex improvement toolkit. Bold claim, I know, so let's get into this video and see if I can convince you to embrace the art of the hot drop. Apex Legends, and most Battle Royale games in general, can be broken down into 4 skill sets: aim, movement, and micro and macro decision making. We're going to dive into each one individually, and then if everything goes as planned, we'll tie it all together in a nice little package at the end of this video. But keep in mind throughout the video that no skill or decision is ever really functioning independently, or at least I hope not, because that'd be a weird way to play the game. You're constantly moving and aiming and reacting to new information and trying to plan ahead, and a lot of that becomes second nature over time. The beauty of hot dropping is it acts as a sort of hyperbolic time chamber to accelerate the learning process. So let's start with aim. Hopefully, you won't be surprised to hear that Apex Legends is a first-person shooter. Aiming and shooting form the foundation of this game. All of the decision-making brilliance and fancy-footed movement in the world isn't going to save you if you can't hit a shot when you get into a fight. And how do we get better at shooting? Practice, of course. How do we get the most possible practice in a play session? You guessed it, hot dropping. See, the unique thing about Battle Royale games is the standard game flow. In an arena or a round-based shooter, you're pretty much in the action 24/7. But when it comes to Battle Royales, the drop, looting, and rotating phase can often eat up a significant chunk of your playtime. If you're not actively seeking out fights, you may only get a few minutes of real shooting practice for each hour played. This is a pretty terrible return on time investment when you're trying to improve at the game. If we hot drop, we eliminate a big chunk of that downtime and put ourselves right into the action. One of the common objections I hear to hot dropping is that it's too random. I would argue that this is actually a point in favor of hot dropping. Battle Royale games are at their core random games. There will always be some facet of luck involved in the loot that you find. Learning to adapt to that element of randomness is a big step in mastering Apex Legends. Sure, there are going to be times where you get completely shafted on loot and just die, it happens. But the beauty of hot dropping is you don't waste 20 minutes getting to that point, and you can just hop right back in and do it again. Putting yourself in these chaotic fights is a great way to practice your aiming in Apex because you're forced to use a variety of weapons in all sorts of situations. If you only ever play with your favorite guns and take fights after you've looted up, you're never really testing the limits of your capabilities in Apex. Oftentimes, people that play this way are sort of just going through the motions, and it's a really easy way to form some bad habits. Hot dropping forces you to react and adapt and pushes you outside of your comfort zone in every engagement. When you're actively engaged in each fight like this, you learn so much faster. Your aim is going to improve drastically when you start taking these fights regularly, and your movement should improve right alongside it. Apex Legends is unique in that it has a rather deep movement system compared to most BRs. As an experienced player, I can often tell within a few seconds of seeing someone moving in the game roughly how good they're going to be. There are always exceptions to the rule, but I found that players with a clear mastery over the movement system in Apex stand out and are incredibly difficult to kill. Good movement can help you get out of bad situations and into advantageous positions. I'm a big believer in the trial by fire method of learning, and no skill gets put to the test quite like movement when you hot drop. There's so many creative things you can do with the movement system in the game, but you're rarely forced to explore that side of the game if you're constantly dropping safe. I'm not going to go into detail on individual movement mechanics in this video. If I did, we'd have a hour-long mini documentary series, and there are plenty of incredible movement guides out there already. If you're just beginning your journey into improvement at Apex Legends, I'd highly recommend checking out one of those, practicing the fundamentals in the firing range, and then diving into the game and hot dropping. Better movement helps you in every single aspect of the game, because you should be constantly moving. If you're not moving, you're probably going to be dead pretty quick, but the good news is, then you can queue back up and hot drop this time. Understanding how to utilize the movement system in Apex to engage and disengage throughout the course of a fight can easily be the difference between wiping a squad and getting sent back to the lobby. And the added pressure and guaranteed engagement from hot dropping really lets you test this system out and push your limits. And speaking of knowing when to engage and disengage, let's talk about skill number 3, micro decision making. If you have any background in MOBAs like League or Dota, you're probably already familiar with these terms, but if not, micro and macro decision making is used to describe everything you're doing in the game and why you're doing it. Micro relates to your moment-to-moment movement, positioning, shooting, and ability use, while macro decisions are more about working towards the next major goal you're trying to achieve, like rotating to a certain point on the map. Experience is absolutely the best teacher when it comes to decision making, and the best way to consistently put yourself into situations where you're getting that experience is hot dropping. Being actively engaged in the game while hot dropping will teach you so many things. From the moment you drop, you're looking to see where nearby enemy squads are landing. When you hit the ground, did you land on weapons and armor? If you did, are you ready to look for a fight? Or would it be more beneficial to grab some more loot? Where is the next loot spot, and what's the quickest way to get there? Am I playing a character like Caustic or Watson that benefits from staying indoors, or am I playing someone like Pathfinder who can create an angle on the enemy squad that they're not expecting? There are just so many little decisions to be made in every second of the game. And one of my biggest issues with safe drops is that people who consistently play that way often wind up doing everything on autopilot. Hot dropping forces you to constantly react to outside information and process it, and decide on the next best course of action, and doing this consistently is, in my opinion, the best way to improve your overall level of play in Apex Legends. So, how do we tie this all together into a happy little lesson? That would be with skill number 4, macro decision making. One of the main objections I've seen to hot dropping is that it doesn't teach you things like proper rotations or late game circles, which very much fall into the macro decision category. And I would argue that it's actually the complete opposite. What we really want to do here, the goal we're actually trying to achieve, is creating a positive feedback loop of improvement. When you start consistently winning your early fights, you get to rotate and look for the next fight, whether that's positioning early or approaching a third-party opportunity. Winning these early fights means you're going to be staying in each game longer, which means you have even more time in your play session that you're actively practicing. This is that feedback loop we're looking for. To put it as simply as possible, getting better at Apex Legends makes it easier to get better at Apex Legends. Winning these fights should feel fun and rewarding, and it's important to remember at the same time not to take the losses so hard. Don't get mad at your teammates, don't worry about your KD, just ask yourself honestly, what went wrong here? Sometimes you're just going to get shafted and there's no way around it. But I found that in most situations, if you're really critical about your own play, you can definitely pinpoint the spot where things went wrong. Try to keep that in mind as you're playing and hot dropping, and if you can do that, I have no doubt that you'll start seeing improvement in your own play quickly. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you're interested in seeing a detailed breakdown of the decision-making process during a hot drop, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Let me know what you guys think about hot dropping down in the comments, whether you like doing it or not, and especially if you start hot dropping because of this video, I'd love to hear from you. Apex Legends, and in particular the process of improving, is something that I'm really passionate about, so if you got anything out of this video, hitting that like button really helps me out, and if you're new here, consider hitting subscribe. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.
Give it to me like wait till I get hundreds and I bring them to the yard. Wait till I get people looking at me from afar. You ain't never been inside of places